content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button. And please, feel free to share the video. Thank you.
What's good, everybody? What's happening with y'all, man? I'm the G with a PhD. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. It is the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up with no chasers. And, shout out to all the haters out there, man. I hope y'all doing well. Peace out to y'all. And, when you come in, man, please make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button. I know I'm a little small rinky-dink channel, but, liking the video, man, subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell notification button really goes a long way, man. With the algorithm and, the content that I have, keeps me on constant shadow ban and, in a wide variety of instances prevents me from being able to monetize my videos and things of this nature. So, just give a little support here and there so you can keep abreast of what's going on here. And, the next thing I want to do is, as I always do, give a shout out to all the members of the Green Gorilla channel and those persons who help me to keep this thing going. Okay, so I want to give a shout out to Life of Commerce, Travis King, Super Tech, Waffle Weave, Kisses from Afar, Rais Moajid, 77 Base X, True King 337, Brian McMurray, Apex Prowler, K-Ron S, Javon Thompson, Anthony Davis, BGS Ivmore, Raphael Brown, Professor Carl Tone Jones, Artisan MC, Damon Brown, Donnell 360, Herbert Lewis, 7th Coast Dojo, Rogish the Billmonger, Pulpit 28, Michael Ross, Charles Rogers, Papa Didas, B Hillfire, Rick Ross, Sandra Jean 955, Brotherly Love 215, Charles Gilmore 3, Patricia Colley, 7Q Pit, Kwaku Asasi, Gregory Oliver, Greg, Barry Little, Alan Wiley, Mr. Valentino, Jason Hales, Black Men Being Brutally Honest, Omni Americana, Cameron 87, Deshaun Nolly, Brian Peaks, Nelso, Kareem Not Karen, Doc LaRock, Jay Charles, Mark Holt, Lee Ways, Jeffrey Speed, The Face, Mark Swift, Show Me, Odd Collar, Donald Watts, Cozy Corner, HipHop.CATV, Coach DC, Kashif Caldwell, I Am Black Man, Nichita, Mr. Blue Collar, Barnolis, Kyle J. Sura, I Am Just Jules, TD Hip Hop Media, Drew Main, Mr. Heat, Sir Anthony, MLR, Universal 178, Black Swerve 404, Rashid Barnes, Aaron Smith, DH, C-Truth the Revelator, Gold Professor, Arthur Unknown, Dr. Tiasan Johnson, Kalon Jakala, Ricky Dawson, Cedric Bowman, True 7360, BK Born Shahid, James Washington, Hostile Adept, W. Pierre 1, Marvin Battle Jr., and I can't forget my brother in heaven, Forrest Windu. And to all the people on the Patreon side, I want to give a shout out to Kevin Marchbank Owens, William Joyner, Javon Thompson, Tyrone Hampton, Jules Winfield, Romello Scuggs, Darnell Smith, Excalibur, Jason Warren, Anu219, Pursuer Prisoner, Taz, Dragon 59, Supreme Ibmore, Adrian Hicks, Jay Bailey, Mr. Michi, Mo Mal, and Asangwa. Shout out to y'all, man, and thank you so much for supporting the Green Gorilla channel. Y'all deserve a round of applause. Thank you so much for supporting the Green Gorilla channel. And if you're wondering how you can also support the Green Gorilla channel, well, man, this is how you do it.
What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. Today, I want to introduce you to my new membership program that consists of 5 levels where you can invest in the Green Gorilla channel on a monthly basis and receive level-specific perks. Memberships are special because they improve the quality of the content of the channel and will help me to be able to keep the channel going. Now, to participate in the Green Gorilla Channel membership program, all you have to do is hit the join button, which is located right next to the subscribe button on my channel page. Now, for all of my subscribers who decide not to participate in my membership program, nothing will change. The content will keep coming the way it always has. Thanks for watching, and be careful out here, people. Bless.
All right, man, we back. Again, you know who I am. You know where you are. I just want to say before we get started, I watch, a lot of TV series and things like this. And, one of the things that I, see consistently, I mean, it's ubiquitous now, is same-sex relationships. Like, you see it everywhere, bro. Put a 1 in the chat if you see this everywhere, man. Like, any TV show you see is going to have a same-sex relationship in it, man. I mean, almost every one. And I'm not here to knock, to stigmatize, to dehumanize, to, berate, to look down upon, to issue invectives on anybody for whatever it is they're doing with their own bodies, man. I personally, I'm just saying, I could really care less. How you roll in between the sheets is how you roll, man. Like the Isley brothers said a long time ago, it's your thing, do what you want to do. I can't tell you who to sock it to, man. It's on you. It's on you. But I can tell you this is everywhere, bro. Like, okay, let me tell you, man, the range. And I want you to tell me too also if you've noticed, what favorite show do you watch where you see that this, agenda, one could argue, and it is an agenda, whether you want to call it a benign or a malignant agenda, it doesn't matter. But I'm just talking about the facts, okay? It is an agenda. It's a Hollywood initiative, okay? You can say it's for better or you can say it's for worse, but you can't say that it is not an agenda. So then the question is, what television shows do you watch where you've seen it and I'm just going to speak briefly to you about the television shows where I've seen it. Okay, so, I just recently, and I really have never watched Power, but I decided to, watch the Raising Kanan series. And, I was entertained by it, actually. But within it, there's a same-sex relationship between Kanan's cousin and some white girl. Same-sex relationship. I'm like, I don't know what this really actually has to do with the subject of Kanan, coming up, but there it is. It's a nod. It's a, a tipping of the hat to people who are engaged in same-sex relationships. It just is, okay? And, recently, I'm a big sci-fi fan. And recently, I looked and perused my TV guide, online to see, what kind of new sci-fi or fantasy series that have been out that I really haven't had the opportunity to look at. And so I stumbled across a program called C. And it's got that one dude, man, Jason Momoa in it, who played, I think it was Aquaman in the DC movie adaptation of the DC universe. I can't remember what the name of the movie was, but anyway, man, he, plays a blind person. It's, a futuristic series about how a virus wiped out sight amongst the human population. And so, in this futuristic apocalyptic landscape that they, put out there, nobody can see. But there are a few people who can, but they're perceived as witches. If you have the gift of sight, then you're a witch, or you're some sort of evil spawn of some kind. And the people who are blind blame people with sight for the destruction of the civilization that existed prior to the, the cataclysm, or this, this viral outbreak. So there's a same-sex relationship within it. And then, I was watching another program and I saw another in it. And it's like everywhere I turn, everywhere I look, I see it. But you want to know what? I'm going to give you some insight into the individual who kicked all of this off, the pioneer who brought it to you. Yeah, you got that right. And, I understand there are a lot of guys in this space who are skeptical about the academy and academicians. And, they think that the academy is the seat of all kinds of cultural confusion. But as I said once a long time ago, that you're not going to eradicate the academy in Western culture. It's never going to happen. If the academy comes down, Western culture itself is going to have to come down. Those are the facts. And what I like to tell people, this is what you have to understand. Let me stop this music, man. Let me stop it. This is what you have to understand, man. And what a lot of guys don't get is that the pen is mightier than the sword. I think that's Shakespeare. A lot of guys don't understand that. Because, they're kind of caught up in, the masculine thing and, building or being entrepreneurial or, doing something practical. But there's a reason why this whole saying, this aphorism that the pen is mightier than the sword, there's a reason why that was said and why, there's some truth to it. And the place where people are writing with the pen or word processing on the computer, the place where that's done the most and where the writing is able to gain traction and have an impact on policy, politics, and media, that place is the academy. You can wish it away if you want. You can ignore it to your peril. But this is where it goes down. Eventually, what is accepted and lauded within the confines of the academy gets filtered into policy, politics, and then it becomes part and parcel of popular culture. I didn't make this up. I didn't set this trend. All I can do is talk to you matter-of-factly about it, whether you like it or not. But today we're going to talk about an academician who, in my estimation, is the individual who, is, I won't say single-handedly, but most preeminently is responsible for the proliferation of the new sexual politics. And again, man, look, I'm not here to demonize anybody who's gay or whatever the case may be. But the one thing I am critical of in relation to it is that contemporarily in the society in which we live, people like to pick and choose what they consider to be acceptable or non-acceptable in relation to the new sexual mores that are emerging. And that's why I feel like it's important to go to the source. I like to go to the source, man. I like to go to the source. I don't like to go to blogs. I don't like to go, every now and then I will go to a blog. Okay? I'm not saying that I don't ever do that. Okay? But I like to go to the source. You wanted to understand the source of black feminism? I went and covered every nook and cranny of the Combahee River Collective, and I told you this is why there's this cleavage between black men and women politically that you see today. And, could there have been at some point in time a reason for this document to have emerged? Maybe, possibly, maybe not. I'll leave that up for you to think. I've already offered up my criticisms about the work. All you got to do is go back and watch those videos. They're there for you to see. But I went to the source and I told you, you want to know what these people are thinking? Here's the playbook. I gave it to you. You wanted to get some insight into domestic violence? I went into it, man, and I gave you the social scientific research on it, not from a feminist perspective, but for people who actually do this work in the domain of social scientific research and the narrative that they put out there, as opposed to what you see on Lifetime television or whatever the case may be. The reality of it. But today what I want to do is get to the reality of the new sexual mores. And I'm just going to read it. It's up for you to provide your own interpretation of it. You can ask questions about it. You can even interrupt me. You see, I always put, if you want to join the conversation, feel free to do so. The link will pop up in the chat periodically with the bot from Stream Elements, and then you can chime in and offer your opinion. It just is what it is. But, who is this academician that I'm talking about? Well, the academician's name is Gayle Rubin. Gayle Rubin, was born in South Carolina around, the middle of the 20th century. I think, 1949 was when she was born, okay? And, she does work in cultural anthropology. She's written on a lot of stuff, bruh. Feminism, sadomasochism. I don't even know if you know what sadomasochism is. But this is weird, man. Sadomasochism to me is absolutely, I won't call it fascinating, but it's weird to me. Precisely because, and I'd like to thank you, Charles Doctor, for your donation, and Rashid Barnes for your donation. Appreciate your help and your support. Okay? Thank you. But the funny thing about it is the roles of domination and violence get played out within the context of sexual relationships and play. That's weird to me, man. And it's advocated, promoted, and endorsed by feminists. I'm just trying to find the context for the justification of it. Because to be quite honest, I'm not going to say I don't understand it, but, like the fantasies of being choked and whipped and, slapped and made to be, put in the bottom position, or another person takes the preeminent or the dominant position. All that is playing out in a fantastic way what they consider to be unjust in the domain of the social and the political world itself. So it's puzzling. But anyway, she talks about that, prostitution, pedophilia, pornography, as well as like lesbian literature and movies and, a a whole host of, writings from either fiction to, academic writing. But what she's most known for is an essay by the name of Thinking Sex. And basically one could argue that this book, it is the founding text. It is the text. Just like the Combahee River Collective is the founding text for Black feminism, Thinking Sex is the founding text for gay and lesbian studies, sexuality studies, and queer theory in the United States, in the academy, and even throughout the world, bro. These are the facts. So we're going to read a selection of Thinking Sex. And the funny thing about it is, man, you're going to see what I consider to be some inconsistencies with the way this work has actually been interpreted and how people pick and choose and they pilfer from what they think is acceptable about it and what they find unacceptable about it. And how it plays out, especially for Black men in the United States. And the kind of punishment they receive in relation to it. Before I get started, man, I'm going to let my boy Chaos come in. Chaos, man, you got to cut your background noise out, bro.
Oh,
What's
yeah,
happening?
I'm not saying long. I'm out in a place, so I'm not sure if you started the stream already. I just saw the link. Are you going into this? Is there?
I'm going into it. I'm going to read a bit, and after I read a bit, then I'm gonna open it up for discussion. But I didn't want to have you sitting behind Boyd thinking I was ignoring.
Okay.
So I'll talk to you later.
I'll step down. Is that fine?
All right.
If I get a chance, I'll come back up. All right.
Yes, sir. So anyway, without further ado, let me just get straight to this, man. Let me get straight to this. And I'm not gonna read all of it. All I'm gonna do is read parts of it, maybe 4 or 5 pages. And then I'm gonna show you a chart. And then we're gonna discuss some contemporary issues that have popped up and how not all of what she says is accepted. And you would, man, some of the stuff that she promotes, people they would just basically castigate it. Now I'm just keeping it 100. And you'll see as I read it, you'll see why I say they would castigate this. They would like say this is the worst shit in the world. But let's get right into it. And I'm going to cut the music off because I don't want it to be distracting. Okay? So anyway, we're talking about the work of Gayle Rubin, Thinking Sex. And, the subtitle is Notes for a Radical Theory of the Politics of Sexuality. And then she's got, underneath it, a section entitled The Sex Wars. Now, you got to pay attention to what she's saying here, man. And I'm going to stop every now and then. I'm going to try not to issue too much of my own commentary unless something just strikes me and I have to comment. Okay? So anyway, it starts off and it says, asked his advice. Dr. J. Guerin affirmed that, and this was written in 84, by the way. 1984. I was a freshman in high school when this was written. Okay? Just to give you a time frame so you can understand the time frame. Okay? So asked his advice, Dr. J. Guerin affirmed that, excuse me, after all other treatments had failed, he had succeeded in curing young girls affected by the vice of onanism by burning the clitoris with a hot iron. Which, by the way, I would consider to be an act of brutality, personally. Okay? I don't think anybody's gonads should be burned. So in this instance, calling this out, I think is, something that I don't have a problem at all with. I would endorse calling this practice out. Like in onanism, in case you don't understand, you're not really familiar with the word, it's like masturbation, man. People who like to masturbate, girls who like to masturbate, or men who like to masturbate, or, engaged in onanism, okay? Anyway, he feels he can cure girls from masturbating by burning their clitorises with a hot iron. He says he applies the hot point 3 times to each of the large labia and another on the clitoris. After the first operation, from 40 to 50 times a day, the number of voluptuous spasms was reduced to 3 or 4. We believe then that in cases similar to those submitted to your consideration, one should not hesitate to resort to the hot iron at an early hour, meaning earlier on in the stage of their sexual development, in order to combat clitoral and vaginal onanism in the little girls. Now, I think that's barbaric, quite frankly. That's just my opinion on it. But let me keep pushing. The time has come to think about sex. So that's her, introduction, this little epigraph that she has here, okay? Then she says, the time has come to think about sex. To some, sexuality may seem to be an unimportant topic, a frivolous diversion from the more critical problems of poverty, war, disease, racism, famine, or nuclear annihilation. Now, let me just say this. And I've said this before. The sexual politics need to be discussed? I think so. But when you begin to look at the way the race has been neglected and the subject matter of race has been pushed to the back burner, and how the sexual conversation has been pushed to the fore, one can only be left thinking to himself, like, who is the largest number of people on utilitarian grounds, I could say, that race needs to take the seat first? Just because of the utility principle, the hedonic principle, or calculus. Abide by the policy that's going to create the greatest happiness and reduce the greatest amount of pain for the largest amount of people possible. You got some 40 million Negroes, and God knows how many other ethnic groups and races within the context of American society. We still ain't dealt with those issues, but now we're going to push this issue to the fore. And, one could argue barbarism always has to be denounced. The mutilation of genitalia in order to prevent sexual stimulation of girls or boys, I think is wrong. But nobody talks about, the genital mutilation of young boys, which happens to dang on every young boy. Whether you want to say it's based on religious practices or not, circumcision is the removal of the greatest portion where there are the most dense nerve endings in the human body, besides maybe perhaps the eye. Nobody bats an eye at this. Nobody discusses it or talks about it at all. But I digress. Anyway, she says, but it is precisely at times such as these, when we live with the possibility of unthinkable destruction, that people are likely to become dangerously crazy about sexuality. Contemporary conflicts over sexual values and erotic conduct have much in common with the religious disputes of earlier centuries. They acquire immense symbolic weight. Disputes over sexual behavior often become the vehicles for displacing social anxieties and discharging their attendant emotional intensity. Consequently, sexuality should be treated with special respect in times of great social stress. So in other words, in the same way religious argumentation and confrontation was a problem within early Europe, sexuality has the same sort of import, she's arguing. And the same anxieties exist about it. All right, that's what she's basically saying. Okay? Then she goes on to say the realm of sexuality also has its own internal politics, inequities, and modes of oppression, as with other aspects of human behavior. The concrete institutional forms of sexuality at any given time and place are products of human activity. They are imbued with conflicts of interest and political maneuver, both deliberate and incidental. In that sense, sex is always political. And having said this, understand that what you're seeing now within the media, it is political. When you see these same-sex couples making out on television, that is political. Understand that. Just be aware of it. She's telling you it's political. She's allowing you to see firsthand that it is political. But there are also historical periods in which sexuality is more sharply contested and more overtly politicized. In such periods, the domain of erotic life is, in effect, renegotiated. So one can argue we are at a time and in a place at the current moment in which sexuality itself is overtly politicized and erotic life is actually being renegotiated. Get that in your head. So yes, is there an agenda? Most definitely. There is an agenda. You're not imagining it. But she's going to argue, that what came before is also political. So heterosexuality to her is going to be considered to be, and insistence on it is going to be political. It's not to her something that's natural. This is political. Now, whether you agree with that or not, that's on you. You can determine that yourself. You can determine that on your own accord. But I do know that what you're seeing now is overtly political. It is political. Okay? Now, in England and in the US, the late 19th century was one such era. So she's talking about, the 1800s, the late 1800s. And most people don't think back that far when they're thinking about politics, especially sexual politics. During that time, powerful social movements focused on vices of all sorts. There were educational and political campaigns to encourage chastity, meaning don't be out here having sex. Now, we're talking about a time, the late 1800s now. We're talking about pre-birth control. But I digress. To eliminate prostitution, to discourage masturbation, especially among the young. So in the late 1800s, you had a movement to encourage people from having premarital sex. They wanted to eliminate prostitution and to discourage masturbation, especially among the young. Now, the implication here is that it was men. I guarantee you the implication is that it was only men who were encouraging these movements. I disagree with that. I doubt it very highly. But this is the way the narrative is being spun. This is what's being implied, okay? And what is going to be implied as we move forward. So you have morality crusaders who attacked obscene literature, nude paintings. Now, do I think this can go overboard? Yes. I do think it can go overboard. So nude paintings, music halls, abortion, birth control information, and public dancing. The consolidation of Victorian morality and its apparatus of social, medical, and legal enforcement was the outcome of a long period of struggle whose results have been bitterly contested ever since. So basically, the seeds of sexual morality she's arguing harken back to this time in the late 1800s. The consequences of these great 19th century moral paroxysms are still with us. So you mean to tell me that before then it was a free-for-all sexually? I doubt it, but let us continue. So they have left a deep imprint on attitudes about sex, medical practice, child rearing, parental anxieties, police conduct, and sex law. But let me tell you this, I've already let you know, in the early 1800s was when you get the Custody of Infants Act. And up until that point, men were the ones who basically ran the family. They were the stewards of children. So I don't know, where she's going with that. Okay? I really don't. But, during this time, I guess, was the idea that masturbation is an unhealthy practice and it's part of the heritage of that movement, okay? During the 19th century, it was commonly thought that premature interest in sex, sexual excitement, and above all, sexual release would impair the health and maturation of a child. Theorists differed on the actual consequences of sexual precocity. Some thought it led to insanity, while others merely predicted stunted growth. To protect the young from premature arousal, parents tied children down at night so they would not touch themselves. Doctors excised the clitorises of onanistic little girls. Although the more gruesome techniques have been abandoned, the attitudes that produce them persist. The notion that sex in and of itself, and per se is what that means, per se in and of itself, is harmful to the young, has been chiseled into extensive social and legal structures designed to insulate minors from sexual knowledge and experience. I don't think you know where we about to go with this shit, boy. You don't know where we about to go with this, bruh. You don't know where we about to go with this shit, bruh. You don't know where she about to take this, bruh. You ain't ready for this, bruh. Do you see what she just said, bruh? Do you see what she just said? Do you see what she just opened the door to, bruh? I gotta drop another bomb because you ain't ready yet. You're gonna see it in a minute. And look, if you're a young kid and you're touching yourself, that's one thing. But we're about to go off into a whole new territory here, partner. We about to move into a brave new world here, partner. Now, this is the person who founded queer studies. For the most part, one of the founding mistresses, the mothers of gender politics. And I'm asking, for somebody who studies, and look, I read this shit in graduate school. That's why I'm reading it to you now. Look at what she says in the next few paragraphs. Much of the sex law currently on the books also dates from the 19th century morality crusades. The first federal anti-obscenity law in the United States was passed in 1873. The Comstock Act, named for Anthony Comstock, was an ancestral anti-porn activist and the founder of the New York Society for the Suppression of Vice. He made it a federal crime to make, advertise, sell, possess, send through the mails, or import books or pictures deemed obscene. The law also banned contraceptive or abortifacient drugs and devices and information about them. In the wake of the federal statute, most states passed their own anti-obscenity laws. So following what was going on in the federal government, then you get the states who are coming in mimicking many of their statutes. And she's blaming this all on Comstock. I'm pretty sure people everywhere know, in New York especially, know who Comstock is. I'm pretty sure you done heard that name floating around everywhere. Anyway, the Supreme Court began to whittle down both federal and state Comstock laws during the 50s, the 1950s. So in other words, they're rolling and scaling these laws back. And let me tell you something, laws don't just get eradicated off of the books because people just come to some enlightened idea that they need to be removed. No, people fight to get legislation changed. Academicians, lawyers, policymakers, activists, they fight to get laws changed. Anyway, by 75, the prohibition of materials used for and information about contraception and abortion had been ruled unconstitutional. However, although the obscenity provisions have been modified, their fundamental constitutionality has been upheld. So in other words, now we can talk about abortion and contraception, but there's still some relation to obscenity that needs to be, there's something about obscenity that still needs to be safeguarded. Something about those laws that still need to be preserved. Now we saw that when, you got a black man, you know who the black man is. His name was Luther Campbell. Uncle Luke. Well, Uncle Luke had videos and had songs. Everybody was coming for this guy. So it was all the same purists, the sexual purists, they came after him and said that he, for the most part, was a misogynist and was exploiting women and girls. But here you have a feminist, one of the founding mothers of queer studies, basically saying that these laws in and of themselves were unjust from the giddy up. Imagine that shit there. I'm telling you how this shit run down the pipeline. Shit rolls downhill. You didn't know that, did you? You thought it rolled uphill? You already know who these laws are going to impact and affect more so than anybody else. But I don't want to talk about this in great detail until a little bit later on. Anyway, it remains, and this is 84, okay? It remains a crime to make, sell, mail, or import material which has no purpose other than sexual arousal. Now, we see sexual shit everywhere, bro. You got OnlyFans, you got, porn sites, Pornhub and all this kind of stuff where you can go see material and there's people doing all kind of lewd and sexual acts. So one can argue, like, to be perfectly honest, you got to thank her for the proliferation of this. Whether you like it or not, whether you're an advocate for it or not, she's been an advocate to fight for it in behalf of people's ability to be able to do it, just in case you didn't know. So anyway, going on. Although sodomy statutes date from older strata of law, when elements of canon law were adopted into civil codes, most of the laws used to arrest homosexuals and prostitutes come out of the Victorian campaigns against, quote, white slavery. What the fuck is that? Well, you're going to find out, my friend. White slavery. Okay? This coming out of the Victorian era. Man, there's so much that comes out of the Victorian era. I've told you, contemporary notions about womanhood, which many feminists want to preserve, but which they want to challenge in the same vein, leave men confused. It's like, okay, well, do you want to be put on a pedestal? Do you want to be perceived as someone who's deserving of protection and sacrifice? Or do you want to actually be treated like an equal? Like, most of these ideas about womanhood and notions about women and sexuality and the difference between the sexes and so on and so forth have been established by British Victorian ideas about womanhood. I told you this. I've been telling you this. But my whole thing about it is you can't pick and choose what you want to, contain and maintain when it comes to Victorian womanhood, and then get rid of all the things you don't like. Either you're going to get rid of the shit or you're going to preserve it. That's been my viewpoint from the beginning. Either you're going to say, okay, we want equality, or either we want something altogether different. We're going to oscillate back and forth between all the things women traditionally receive, and we're going to be treated equally as well. Like, there's no way to do this. This is leading up to like a great contradiction, a lot of bad faith, and a lot of confusion between men and women about what the nature of our contract is with one another. But I'm digressing. Anyway, in her discussion of the British white slave scare, and notice what I'm telling you, you got to read between the lines. The white slave scare. In other words, she's saying right here, this is hyperbolic. This is all cap, is what she's saying about the white slave scare. It's a scare. It's propaganda. Is what she's talking about. It's what she's implying here. Anyway, I missed the part. Before she says that these campaigns produce the myriad prohibitions against solicitation, which is, hey, baby, I love you long time. Okay, ma'am, you're about to get arrested. Or the man, the John. Lewd behavior, twerking, whatever, loitering for moral purposes. Listen, age offenses. Age offenses. Curious that that's there. And brothels and bawdy houses. So in her discussion of the British white slave scare, and one can talk, basically the white slave scare is sex trafficking, is what it is. She's saying this is hyperbole, is what she's saying, hyperbole. This is the founder of queer studies now, the sexual politics pioneer. You don't hear me though, man. Y'all don't fuck with me for real, man. Y'all do not hear me, bruh. Recent research delineates the vast discrepancy between lurid journalistic accounts and the reality of prostitution. One has to wonder or consider, is it the same scare shit being used now that you hear all in the media? I'm just asking the question. If it was a scare then, is it a scare now? If it was hyperbole then, is it hyperbole now? I'm just asking the question. Evidence of widespread entrapment of British girls in London and abroad is slim. You don't fucking hear me, man. Y'all are not hearing me. You don't understand the import of what's being said. Maybe you'll go back and listen to it and you'll understand when you go back and see it one, maybe two times beyond this. Maybe you don't get it. However, public furor over this ostensible problem forced the passage of the Criminal Law Amendment Act of 1885, a particularly nasty and pernicious piece of omnibus legislation. The 1885 Act raised the age of consent for girls from 13 to 16. You ain't fucking hearing me, though. You ain't fucking hearing me, though. You ain't hearing me, you not hearing me, dog. Let me take a hit for my shit. The 1885 Act, the Criminal Law Amendment Act, that is, it raised the age of consent for girls from 13 years old to 16 years old, but it also gave police far greater summary jurisdiction over poor working class women and children. It contained a clause making indecent acts between consenting male adults a crime, thus forming the basis of legal prosecution of male homosexuals in Britain until 1967. The clauses of the new bill were mainly enforced against working class women and regulated adult rather than youthful sexual behavior. Now you got to ask yourself, who the fuck is it working against now? Because these laws are still on the books. The sentiment of these laws is still extant within Western culture and society. You can trust and believe that. Now, I'm not here to argue in favor of or anything, but I'm just saying, like, look, what? Is this woman saying basically that child sexual molestation, white slavery, she calls it, was hyperbole? That it really wasn't all that serious? That it was, made to be something bigger than what it actually was? And that what it actually did was it basically bear down on working class women? Now, she hasn't explained how it has, to be perfectly honest. But how did this shit impact or affect men and boys? That's another question that has yet to be answered. So then she goes on to talk about the United States, in particular, the Mann Act. This has come up recently. I hope you understand it. The Mann Act is everywhere today, sir. And who's the one enforcing and protecting it and promoting it? Who? In the United States, the Mann Act, also known as the White Slave Traffic Act, was passed in 1910. Excuse me. Look at the date now, 1910. Subsequently, every state in the Union passed anti-prostitution legislation. In the 1950s in the US, major shifts in the organization of sexuality took place. Instead of focusing on prostitution or masturbation, the anxieties of the 1950s condensed most specifically around the image of the homosexual menace and the dubious specter of the sex offender. Just before and after World War II, the sex offender became an object of public fear and scrutiny. This is a feminist talking now, but now you got all the feminists, believe her, me too, oh my God. My question is, are you riding with this lady or you not riding with her? Like, what's your position on this shit? Because, you know, I read the shit, man. That's why I'm reading it to you, so you can understand it and comprehend the foundation of it. Either you riding with the progenitor, the mother of queer theory and sex studies, or you're not riding with it. What y'all doing? Many states and cities, including Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York State, New York City, and Michigan, launched investigations to gather information about this menace to public safety. The sex offender. The term sex offender sometimes applied to rapists, sometimes to child molesters, and eventually functioned as a code for homosexuals. In its bureaucratic, medical, and popular versions, the sex offender discourse tended to blur distinctions between violent sexual assault and illegal but consensual acts such as sodomy. The criminal justice system incorporated these concepts when an epidemic of sexual psychopath laws swept through state legislatures. These laws gave the psychological professions increased police powers over homosexuals and other sexual quote unquote deviants. From the late 40s until the early 1960s, erotic communities whose activities did not fit the post-war American dream drew intense persecution. Homosexuals were, along with communists, the objects of federal witch hunts and purges. Congressional investigations, executive orders, and sensational exposés in the media aimed to root out homosexuals employed by the government. Thousands lost their jobs, and restrictions on federal employment of homosexuals persist to this day. The FBI began systematic surveillance and harassment of homosexuals, which lasted at least into the 1970s. Many states and large cities conducted their own investigations, and the federal witch hunts were reflected in a variety of local crackdowns. In Boise, Idaho in 1955, a school teacher sat down to breakfast with his morning paper and read that the vice president of the Idaho First National Bank had been arrested on felony sodomy charges. The local prosecutor said that he intended to eliminate all homosexuality from the community. The teacher never finished his breakfast. He jumped up from his seat, pulled out his suitcases, packed as fast as he could, got into his car, and drove straight to San Francisco. The cold eggs, coffee, and toast remained on his table for 2 days before someone from his school came by to see what had happened. In other words, he got the fuck out of Dodge. Now, I'm saying, let me just go on the record of saying this. I don't think the state should be involved in determining if a man wants to have sex with another man. Or a woman for another woman, for that matter. If that's what you want to do, go ahead and do it, man. If that's what you want to do, it's your thing. Do what you want to do, man. I can't tell you who to sock it to. Is it a little overboard to go, persecute, incriminate people, especially adults, for doing what they want to with their body parts, man? I think that's extreme. However, I do think that heterosexuality is normal. That's just my opinion. And I don't want to be made to feel like I'm persecuting somebody. I ain't put these fucking acts into place. Negroes everywhere ain't put these goddamn acts into place. While this shit was going on, white folks worried about whether they're going to get arrested for fucking. Black folks were doing on a whole nother program in the United States. And some gay folks were part of the civil rights movement and were orientated towards racial justice in the United States. Bayard Rustin, James Baldwin, just to name 2 black men. It was Bayard Rustin who organized the March on Washington and taught Martin Luther King Jr. how to engage in civil disobedience. These are the facts. You can register your opinion, your thoughts about it. That's on you. But I'm telling you the facts. This is a matter of historical record. But Bayard Rustin also used to go off into the parks and have sex out in the open in these parks and bathrooms and shit. Now, I don't know about James Baldwin. I don't know about his story. I haven't read that. But this is just the truth now. Whether you like it or not. I'm not here to tell you what to think or what to, accept or adopt as an opinion. That's on you. But do I feel as if what gay folks have gone through is the equivalent in intensity, barbarity, in terms of oppression related to race in the United States? Absolutely fucking not. No. And I'm going to stand on that. Bemused Observer, if you don't like it, you can get the fuck out. You don't have to be here. You don't have to listen to this shit. All I said was, I'm not here to arrest, stigmatize, or call people faggots and all this kind of shit. Although, if you was talking that shit to my face, I'd probably smack the shit out of your bitch ass. Probably. If you don't want to be here, get the fuck out of here. And I mean what I'm saying too, nigga. You fucking with the wrong one, nigga. Yes, I will smack a nigga in his face for talking shit. Fuck out of here, dragon. Be gone, bitch. I told you before. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. What kind of skeletons you niggas got in your closet? I guarantee you most of the gay hating motherfuckers for real be some motherfuckers that got molested or like the meat in the seat they goddamn self. I'm just keeping it a buck. Do I think this shit should be promoted every goddamn where? Probably not. But I don't think sexuality should be promoted any and every goddamn where anyway. Do I think the people in the United States are uptight about sex? To some degree, yes. But I'm just exposing the reality of the situation in relation to political agendas. And yes, this shit is a political agenda. It is. This is the remaking of sexual politics, the renegotiation of sexual politics in the context of the United States and in the Western world. Yes, it is occurring. You're not imagining it. It is real. But my problem is, hold on, wait a minute. You can't pick and choose various aspects and various notions about what's acceptable and unacceptable from the pioneer of queer theory and sexual studies in the United States, in the academy? How you gonna pick and choose? Anyway, man, so this one dude got basically called out for being gay. He left. He ran. He went to San Francisco, okay? So in San Francisco, the police and the media waged war on homosexuals throughout the 50s. Police raided bars, patrolled cruising areas, conducted street sweeps. Almost sound like the war on drugs, right? Same kind of demo. And trumpeted their intention of driving the queers out of San Francisco. Crackdowns against gay individuals, bars, and social areas occurred throughout the country, although anti-homosexual crusades are best documented examples of erotic repression in the 1950s. Future research should reveal similar patterns of increased harassment against pornographic materials, prostitutes, and erotic deviants of all sorts. Research is needed to determine the full scope of both police persecution and regulatory reform. So in other words, they were under police surveillance for homosexuality and sodomy or whatever the case may be. It was considered to be sexual perversion. Okay, so their politics comes out of what they consider to be injustice related to their being labeled as sexually perverse. Especially as it pertains to homosexuality. The current period, she's saying, bears some uncomfortable similarities to the 80s and the 1950s. The 1977 campaign to repeal the Dade County, Florida Gay Rights Ordinance, it inaugurated a new wave of violence, state persecution, and legal initiatives directed against minority sexual populations and the commerce sex industry. For the last 6 years, the United States and Canada have undergone an extensive sexual repression in the political, not the psychological sense. In the spring of 1977, a few weeks before the Dade County vote, the news media was suddenly full of reports of raids on gay cruising areas, arrests for prostitution, and investigations into the manufacture and distribution of pornographic materials. Since then, police activity against the gay community has increased exponentially. Now, here's the rub. This is why they saying gay is the new black. Now, I don't doubt that, being harassed by the police is something that would be nerve-wracking. Black men know it damn well. But to make it the equivalent of what black folks have been going through for the past 300-400 years in these United States and in the Western world in general, it is not similar in magnitude or in treatment or extremity. It's different. Ain't no gay people hung from trees, bruh. Ain't no separate gay water fountains, bruh. Wasn't no segregation of gay folks. It's a difference, bruh. It's a difference between being a visible minority and an invisible minority. It ain't the same, bruh. It's not the same. Anyway, she goes on, and I'm getting to a point. You're going to see what I'm getting to. Since then, the police activity against the gay community has increased exponentially. The gay press has documented hundreds of arrests from the libraries of Boston to the streets of Houston and the beaches of San Francisco. Even the large, organized, and relatively powerful urban gay communities have been able to stop these depredations. Gay bars and bathhouses have been busted with alarming frequency, and police have gotten bolder. In one especially dramatic incident, police in Toronto raided all 4 of the city's gay baths. They broke into cubicles with crowbars and hauled almost 300 men out into the winter streets clad in their bath towels. Now notice, understand, catch the gender here. Who was actually being arrested for this shit? You see do you see women being rounded up and arrested for this shit? No! They raided male homosexual communities, bruh. That's what they did, bruh. So one of the reasons why they riding for you see, like this marriage between gay men and the feminist movement and all of this is because you see them riding for each other here, even with the pen. They say the pen is mightier than the sword. I told you, I'm not here to offer up. You can believe what you want to believe. You can think what you want to think. But I guarantee you this. You ain't gonna come in my house talking shit, because if you come in my house talking shit, I got the right to either knock your ass or slap the fuck out of you and get you out of my house. I'll put your ass on Jazzy Jeff status with the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You better ask somebody. I was a bully in my hood. I left that alone a long time ago. But I'm not about to accept no disrespect in my house. Anyway, even liberated San Francisco has not been immune. There have been proceedings against several bars, countless arrests in the parks, and in the fall of 1981, police arrested over 400 people in a series of sweeps of Polk Street, one of the thoroughfares of local gay nightlife. Queer bashing has become a significant recreational activities for young urban males. They come into gay neighborhoods armed with baseball bats and looking for trouble, knowing that the adults in their lives either secretly approve or will look the other way. So then the question is, have you ever known, heard, or seen a group of young black men getting together going out on some gay bash and shit? Like literally. I mean, we snickered at the shit and laughed at it when we were younger, but we never went out like, I'm about to just go out and start fucking fighting and smashing and taking baseball bats and intimidating gay motherfuckers. That sounds like some shit that they did to us in South Central Los Angeles, the spook hunters. But I ain't even trying to get into all that right now. The police crackdown has not been limited to homosexuals. Uh-oh. We about to get into it. This is the reason I brought you here. The police crackdown has not been limited to homosexuals. Since 1977, the enforcement of existing laws against prostitution and obscenity has been stepped up. Moreover, states and municipalities have been passing new and tighter regulations on commercial sex. Restrictive ordinances have been passed, zoning laws altered, licensing and safety codes amended, sentences increased, and evidentiary requirements relaxed. The subtle legal codification of more stringent controls over adult sexual behavior has gone largely unnoticed outside of the gay press. Now the question is this: who gets fucking arrested for this trafficking shit? Who gets arrested the most for this shit related to prostitution, bruh? You talk about pimping or any other thing, what is the idea that's conjured up in the American imagination? Is it fucking Larry Flint or Hugh Hefner? No. Some nigga from Detroit with gators on in a pastel motherfucking zoot suit. That's who. That's who. That's who. But notice the next paragraph now. I'm gonna outline this shit. I'm gonna highlight it. I'm gonna highlight this. I gotta highlight all of this shit here. Cause this gonna flip your lid here. For over a century, no tactic for stirring up erotic hysteria has been as reliable as the appeal to protect children. The current wave of erotic terror has reached deepest into those areas bordered in some way, if only symbolically, by the sexuality of the young. The motto of the Dade County repeal campaign was "Save Our Children." Does it sound unique or does it sound uncannily similar to the shit you hear nowadays? So my question is, which is it? Are we saving the kids? We got to put an end to the evil and the ominous oogity boogities that's trafficking and exploiting and proliferating white slavery? Or is it hyperbole, man? What is it? Is it some cap or is it realistic? Which way is it? It's all I'm asking. They want to save the children from homosexual recruitment. Anyway, in February 1977, shortly before the Dade County vote, a sudden concern with child pornography swept the national media. In May, the Chicago Tribune ran a lurid 4-day series with 3-inch headlines, which claimed to expose a national vice ring organized to lure young boys into prostitution and pornography. Newspapers across the country ran similar stories, most of them worthy of the National Enquirer. You mean the ones you see today? By the end of May, a congressional investigation was underway. Within weeks, the federal government had enacted a sweeping bill against child pornography, and many of the states followed with bills on their own or of their own. These laws have reestablished restrictions on sexual materials that had been relaxed by some of the important Supreme Court decisions. For instance, the court ruled that neither nudity nor sexual activity per se in and of themselves were obscene, but the child pornography laws define as obscene any depiction of minors who are nude or engaged in sexual activity. This means that photographs of naked children in anthropology textbooks and many of the ethnographic movies shown in college classes are technically illegal in several states. In fact, the instructors are liable to an additional felony charge for showing such images to each student under the age of 18. Although the Supreme Court has also ruled that it is a constitutional right to possess obscene material for private use, some child pornography laws even prohibit private possession of any sexual material involving minors. What does that sound like to you, bruh? What does it sound like to you, bruh? Sound like to me an apology, a defense for exploring the sexuality of minors and being in possession of material related to minors. That's what it sounds like to me. I might not be the brightest bulb on the Christmas tree, but that's what it sounds like to me. Now this is the hero of queer and gender studies now. So my question again is, which way is it? Because she harkened back to laws in the late 19th century, which she considered to be puritanical. Further bills and legislation and policies that were passed based on hyperbole, she says, related to the sexual activity of minors and how they were repressed and oppressed because of it, and how it came down on the heads of gay folks. But most significantly, it came down on the heads of homosexual men. Where have you heard of a whole bunch of motherfucking prostitutes, man, being rounded up and sent to prison for decades or for years for prostitution, bruh? We heard of pimps and people who are quote unquote trafficking. We heard them get put behind bars But where you heard of the women going to do serious time for that shit? Huh, bro? Point me to the article and the evidence, the empirical evidence, bruh, so I can understand it and peruse it and see it for my own self. Now look now. Draw your attention to the next paragraph. I'm going to speak on this one softly. I'm going to speak this softly. The laws produced by the child porn panic are ill-conceived and misdirected. They represent far-reaching alterations in the regulation of sexual behavior and abrogate important sexual civil liberties. But hardly anyone noticed as they swept through Congress and state legislatures. With the exception of the North American Man-Boy Love Association and American Civil Liberties Union, no one raised a peep of protest. Think about that. You don't understand, do you? You don't get it, do you? You never heard of NAMBLA? The laws produced by the child porn panic are ill-conceived and misdirected. They represent far-reaching alterations in the regulation of sexual behavior and abrogate important sexual civil liberties. But hardly anyone noticed as they swept through Congress and state legislatures, with the exception of the North American Man-Boy Love Association and the American Civil Liberties Union. No one raised a peep of protest. Are you triggered yet? Are you triggered yet? Oh, man, look. A new and even tougher federal child pornography bill has just reached House Senate conference. It removes any requirement that prosecutors must prove that the alleged child pornography was distributed for commercial sale. Once this bill becomes law, a person merely possessing a nude snapshot of a 17-year-old lover or friend may go to jail for 15 years and be fined $100,000. This bill passed the House 400-1. You don't understand. You don't understand what I'm reading, do you? You don't get it, do you? The experiences of an art photographer, and she's going on to the lamentations that some, because of what a woman experienced, right? The experiences of art photographer Jacqueline Livingston exemplify the climate created by the child porn panic. This is what she calls it now. This is her words. The child porn panic. The child porn panic. An assistant professor of photography at Cornell University, Livingston was fired in 1978 after exhibiting pictures of male nudes, which included photographs of her 7-year-old son masturbating. Miss Magazine, Chrysalis, and Art News all refused to run ads for Livingston's posters of male nudes. At one point, Kodak confiscated some of her film, and for several months, Livingston lived with the threat of prosecution under the child pornography laws. The Tompkins County Department of Social Services investigated her fitness as a parent. Livingston posters have been collected by the Museum of Modern Art, the Metropolitan, and other major museums, but she has paid a high cost in harassment and anxiety for her efforts to capture on film the uncensored male body at different ages. It is easy to see someone like Livingston as a victim of the child porn wars. It is harder for most people to sympathize with actual boy lovers. Are you hearing what the fuck I'm saying? You're not hearing what I'm saying. Are you listening to the word that's coming out of my mouth? Huh? You're not listening. You don't hear me. But you too near me not to hear me, though. You know what you're hearing. You understand. It's easy to see someone like Livingston as a victim of the child porn wars. It is harder for most people to sympathize with actual boy lovers. Like communists and homosexuals in the 1950s, boy lovers are so stigmatized that it is difficult to find defenders for their civil liberties, let alone for their erotic orientation. Consequently, the police have feasted on them. Local police, the FBI, and watchdog postal inspectors have joined to build a huge apparatus whose sole aim is to wipe out the community of men who love underage youth. In 20 years or so, when some of the smoke is cleared, it will be much easier to show that these men have been the victims of a savage and undeserved witch hunt. A lot of people will be embarrassed by their collaboration with this persecution, but it will be too late to do much good for those men who have spent their lives in prison. I think at this point it's safe to say that Miss Gayle Rubin is a proponent of man-boy love. An advocate for the defense of men who have that sexual orientation. Huh? Well, she chilling though. She good. It's the founding mother, one of them, of queer studies. Anyway, while the misery of boy lovers affects very few, the other long-term legacy of the Dade County repeal affects almost everyone. The success of the anti-gay campaign ignited long-simmering passions of the American right and sparked an extensive movement to compress the boundaries of acceptable sexual behavior. And then she just continues to go on and on and on about the right and how the right are sexually repressive. Right-wing ideology linking non-familial sex with communism and political weakness is nothing new. During the McCarthy period, Alfred Kinsey and his Institute for Sex Research were attacked for weakening the moral fiber of Americans and rendering them more vulnerable to communist influence. After congressional investigations and bad publicity, Kinsey's Rockefeller grant was terminated in 1954. Oh, I'm giving you the source. You say you want to understand the source. I'm giving you the source. Around 1969, the extreme right discovered the Sex Information and Education Council of the United States. In books and pamphlets such as The Sex Education Racket, Pornography in the Schools, and Seekers, Corrupter of Youth, the right attacked Seekers and sex education as communist plots to destroy the family and sap the national will. Another pamphlet, Pavlov's Children, They May Be Yours, published around 1969, claims that the UN Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, which is UNESCO, is in cahoots with seekers to undermine religious taboos, to promote the acceptance of abnormal sexual relations, to downgrade absolute moral standards, and to destroy racial cohesion by exposing white people, especially white women, to the alleged lower sexual standards of black people. Now, I told you. A lot of you motherfuckers ride with the right. Oh, I love the right. Oh, the right, the right, the right. Oh, the right, the right, the right, and the right. I just love the right. Oh, I sucks the dicks of white men in the right. I'll bend over and let you fuck me in the ass if you're in the right, because you're part of the right. This shows you right here the love they got for you. They'll blame this shit on you. They'll say that you are the cause of this shit when they was fucking little black boys in the ass doing slavery, man. Are you serious, bruh? Are you serious, man? Are you fucking serious, bruh? You seen the movie Buck Breaking? You seen it? You know it? I mean, see, you don't support the GG. You just want to talk shit to GG. None of you niggas actually really are fucking come to my face and talk all that shit to GG. I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. They'll say you the cause of this shit. You the evil that need to be stamped out. Some of you don't even believe that the buck breaking went down. Oh no, I wouldn't have been buck broken. Oh no. Many of you walking around buck broke right the fuck now, mentally. But if I tell you that, I guess I'm, I'm fucking up with your value system, right? Go on Daffy Dance, nigga. Go on Daffy Dance for me. Don't tell me how they gonna save your ass. Now, all I said in the beginning was, it's your body, man. You can do whatever you want to do with it. I don't care. It ain't impacting me or my life. The only thing I'm saying is, here you have the foremother of women and gender studies related to sexuality and LGBTQ and all of this, basically endorsing and apologizing for organizations like NAMBLA, saying that in relation to white slavery, it's a tactic and a scare used to attack gay folks. But who really suffers from this shit? Huh? Who really gets incarcerated for this shit? And I ain't saying the left much better either. They both in the same fucking cesspool if you ask me. But I'm not going to be embedded or wedded to ideology for the sake of trying to make sense of my experience in this motherfucker. No. Not I. New right and neoconservative ideology has updated these things and leans heavily on linking immoral sexual behavior to putative declines in American power. In 1977, Norman Poderhertz wrote an essay blaming homos for the alleged inability of the United States to stand up to the Russians. He thus neatly linked the anti-gay fight in the domestic arena and the anti-communist battles in foreign policy. And I can go on, but the last thing I want to show you is a chart. Because I'm getting at the 2-hour mark. I ain't going to do this all damn night. Because I can go on and on and on and on. But I want to draw your attention to the chart. You see that? Let me go to the full screen view of this. Now, what this woman has done is she came up with something that she calls the charmed circle. There's an inner ring with concentric circles, and there's an outer ring in the concentric circle schema being presented here. So in the inner ring, you have what she calls good, normal, natural, and blessed sexuality. So what is good, normal, natural, and blessed sexuality? Heterosexual sexuality, married sexuality, monogamous sexuality, procreative sexuality, non-commercial sexuality, in pairs sexuality, between two people, in a relationship sexuality, same generation sexuality, in private sexuality, nor pornography sexuality, bodies only sexuality, and vanilla sexuality. That is what she considers this society to present as good, normal, natural, and blessed sexuality. But on the inside of the concentric circles, she basically explains what people consider to be the outer limits the bad, abnormal, unnatural, and damned sexuality. And what she's trying to do is to reclaim the bad, abnormal, unnatural, and damned sexuality and to normalize it. And it is a political activity that she is engaged in. If you think that it's not, you're fucking confused. Now it's up for you to decide on your own accord. I'm not here to think for you. But I want you to see what she says exists within the outer limits. Homosexual sexuality, unmarried sexuality, promiscuous sexuality, commercial sexuality, alone or in group sexuality, casual sexuality, cross-generational sexuality, in public sexuality, pornographic sexuality, with manufactured object sexuality, and sadomasochistic sexuality. Now, she said it. I didn't say it. You wanted to know the source. I'm here to give it to you. And this is what you see. In the park. At home. Cross-generational. Same generation. I'm telling you where this is going. I told you it's the past, the present, and the future. Casual sex, sex in a relationship. Coupled sex, alone sex, masturbation, or in a fucking sex group. Free or for money. Procreative, non-procreative. Monogamous, promiscuous. Married, in sin. Heterosexual, homosexual. Vanilla, sadomasochism. With manufactured objects, bodies only. Pornography, no pornography. I went over the whole gamut, bruh. I went over the whole gamut. But this is something I want you to see also. Something you got to pay attention to, bro. And this is something you got to be real aware of. The age of sexual debut among U.S. adolescents. In this culture, in this society, everybody is worried about sex trafficking of girls. The feminists write profusely about this. But what I read from this article, at least the feminist is acknowledging, this is a fucking feminist, acknowledging that they rounded up fucking men for this shit. And they accuse blacks of being the source of this shit. Under the aegis of protecting children. Protect children only if you're the right connection and complexion. Only if you are right gender for the agenda. This study examined gender and racial ethnic differences in sexual debut. We analyzed 1999, 2007 data from the Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance System, a cross-sectional, nationally representative survey of students in grades 9 through 12, established by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The Kaplan-Meier method was used to compute the probability of survival. not having become sexually active at each year, age 12 through 17, and separate estimates were produced for each level of gender and racial ethnic group. Now, what's the results? African American males experience sexual debut earlier than all other groups. All tests of significance at p less than 0.001. And Asian males and females experience sexual debut later than all groups. Now, one could argue, and you can't say cause and effect, but who is more successful in education and in the procuring of a profession? Who is outdoing all others in education? So at the very same time that you have this body positivity feminist arguing for the expansion of sexual mores and norms, one could argue, why are black boys having such early sexual debuts? And what is the impact over that sexual debut on their lifetime and their ability to flourish and to have well-being and functioning relationships thereafter? By their 17th birthday, the probability for sexual debut was less than 35% for Asians and less than 60% for Caucasians. And Hispanic females, 59%. The probability for sexual debut by their 17th birthday was greatest for African Americans, 74% for females and 82% for males. And Hispanic males, 69%. America has a problem with sex trafficking and the early sexual activity of minors. Does it not? Whether you say it's the right that caused it, whether you say it was moral puritanicals who did it, whatever the case may be, who has the highest sexual debut? And if they got the lowest sexual, the earliest sexual debut. And if they have the earliest sexual debut, who's fucking them? Who is fucking them? Who's fucking them? See, this is the shit nobody wants to talk about. See, this is shit right here that, basically I can't, you already know I'm shadow banned as it is. And you know how I talk dirty. And I don't take shit from motherfuckers either. One has to ask the question, if you go back to this circle, man. Cross-generational, same generation. Who the fuck you think is getting actually put on blast for that? But then the question becomes, how could you put us on blast for it? Because you know who's going to take the brunt of it. It's going to be black men abusing little girls and shit like that, right? Am I wrong or am I right? Am I right or am I wrong? But who's fucking these little boys? Oh, they old enough. Black boys can consent to it though, right? Oh, he wanted it. He asked for it. He asked for it. He begged for it, right? Man, you got a whole bunch of stories, man. You got DeRay Davis, motherfucker like, damn. My mama left, her friends, basically told me to eat a box. Damn, really? Your mama's friends? Hmm? You got to pick Coolio. The DJ Ghost dude on YouTube. How many other countless other dudes, man? And oddly enough, allegedly, R. Kelly. Who was molested by his teenage sister when he was 7 years old. I wonder why he fucking like young girls 17 or 15. I mean, think about it. You want to know why he's perverted? He was subjected to perversion. Allegedly. But here you have the great Gayle Rubin saying it's perfectly permissible. Nothing's totally wrong with it. The white slavery's a scare. It's out of proportion. But he's the face of trafficking. He's the chase. He's the the face of predation. Him. What was his sexual debut? 7? Seven years old, bro. Allegedly. But you wonder where the perversion, which Gayle says is not really so perverse after all. The one who basically fought for your right to see women kissing each other in damn near every fucking situational, fictional drama you see on television today. Where does it stop? Where does it begin? What's true, what's not true? What's acceptable, what's not acceptable? Oh, she done basically said all of this shit is basically cap. But all I see is feminists right now doubling down on the shit that they motherfucking foremother, their foremother fought against. But see, that's because these motherfuckers don't read. Or what they do read, they conveniently forget. And they don't expect for other people to read and to pick up on the bullshit. We are. The face of all dysfunction and predation. But who's really the predators? Who's really the predators? Only us, though, right? It went from the police to now it's black men who are the biggest problem and shit. It went from politicians to now it's black men that's the issue now. But we got the earliest sexual debut. And you can't put two and two together. Something ain't right, man. Something don't fit in. Something don't make sense. Something's out of pocket. Something don't seem right. Again, man, I'm not here to, stigmatize, to demonize anybody. I'm just here to examine something that's not even conversed about, not even discussed. Not even talked about. You dare talk about it, or else face cancellation. You ain't talking the right way. You listen to what your girl just said. You won't say it to her or about her, but you'll come to us with all this energy, though, right? That's what I got a problem with. You ain't gonna come at the creator of the predator. You just want to face and look at our predation. What about yours? What about yours? If you even consider it to be predation. But of course, you put a black face on it. You put a man face on it today, it's got to be predation. Correct? A 30-year-old woman making a 14, 13-year-old boy eat the box, no predation at all, right? Allegedly, Jada Pinkett fucking a dude from Crisscross when she 22, no big deal. No big problem at all. It's cross-generational. Mary J. Blige, fucking Danny Boy from Death Row Records, no big deal. I go back, man. I'm going to the source. All the energy is different when it comes to us. But I done laid out all the facts on the table. You can think whatever you want. You can feel whatever you want. You can go with this wherever you want. I just feel funny about the energy. That's all I'm saying. When the energy coming in our direction, it's cool. You know, like my man right here says, BJMJJ. We want it, right? DeRay Davis wanted to eat the box when he was 14, 13, or some shit like that. He wanted it, right? The energy is different, man. Some people have innate worth and dignity, I guess, and then I guess others don't. I guess some people are worthy of protection and some people are worthy of being perceived as inviolable and others are capable of being violated. I guess that's just how it works. I guess equality ain't so equal after all. That's all I'm saying. I know this shit right here ain't gonna be able to be monetized. I doubt it. Support your boy. I'm gonna keep hitting them. I said this is the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, with no chaser. And I'm saying it how I feel like saying it, straight up, with no chaser. And I'm so sick and tired of country ass niggas coming on my cast talking shit. I'm ready to talk to you, motherfucker. I'm ready for you to come to me and talk to me like a goddamn man. Stop acting like a little bitch in the chat. For all those naysayers out there. I don't have time for that bullshit. I'm telling you the truth. Motherfuckers want me to say what they want to be said. Like, I'm supposed to agree with you on every issue and every thought on every matter in fucking life. Nigga, you don't even agree with yourself from 2-3 years ago. What the fuck you requiring consensus from me for? I'm so sick of this stupid ass shit. Nigga get on the toilet and try to take a shit and can't even do it, but you want me to be consistent with you and your thoughts and shit. Fuck out of here, man. Nigga think he wants some pussy, his dick don't even get hard. You can't even agree with yourself, nigga, but you want to come at me. Fuck out of here. I'm just presenting a case for you. You can take it how you want to, but don't require my motherfucking obeisance to your ideology, nigga. Whoever you may be. But anyway, man, I just wanted to present this to you because I like to present the core to you to let you know where it came from, how it got to the point where it did. And yeah, I'm crass, but this is straight up no chaser. This channel is primarily for black men. That's what it's for. If you don't like it, step off of it. That's all I can say. So anyway, man, thank you, Drew Main, and thank you for all the brothers who supported me. A lot of people, I know the stream is, pretty extreme. Some of the things that have been said here. Thank you, Drew Main. Appreciate that. And a host of others who've donated behind the scenes. Appreciate you. I won't say your names because you probably want to not be known. Because this stream is a little controversial. So thank you for your donations in the background. Appreciate that. And salute to all of y'all. But the energy is different when it comes to us. The energy is always different. When it comes to us, we the scum of the earth. We need to be thrown away. Get them. Lock them up. Sentence the nigga. When it comes to them, they need to be protected. Think about it. I'll holler at y'all later, man. Peace.